Peter Buswell here with DrVoIP.com, and in this video clip we'll be taking a look at integrating AWS Connect with Lambda. What will the presentation cover? It's been our experience that it's pretty rare in the call center space to have a call center in which there is not a requirement to integrate with an external database or CRM application. So in the previous lessons, we've been basically dragging pre-configured contact flows onto the campus and easily establishing some call flows. This is well within the ability of a business analyst, even a call center supervisor. But where you're really going to be tested in your skill set is when you start to integrate with other AWS services like Lambda and DynamoDB, as well as integrating with external CRM packages. This is going to require some coding that's probably closer to the skill set of a software engineer than it is to someone on the business application layer. So what we're going to look at in this presentation is a database dip. In the previous lessons, we have a scenario in which someone calls into the contact center and they press 3 to check the status of a previously submitted support ticket. And that's what we'll be doing here. We'll prompt the caller to enter their ticket digits, at which time we will then pass that off to a Lambda function. The Lambda function will then interrogate the database. We happen to be using DynamoDB, but it could be any database. Our functions are written typically in Node, JavaScript, and you can write them pretty much in whatever code you're comfortable with. We do ours in Node typically. Then we'll actually walk you through configuring the contact flow to enable a Lambda function to check this ticket status. And then we'll review the configuration right in the Connect dashboard so you can see how the various pieces go together. This is not a deep dive on Lambda, and we do assume that you have some coding experience, whatever your favorite code is, Python, Node, Java, JavaScript, whatever. We're not going to go down that path. We'll just show you the connectivity between the components. So how do you invoke Lambda from Connect? There's plenty of documentation on this, so don't hesitate to go Google Lambda Connect integration. You'll get some really nice documentation from AWS. You should review it. What we hope to accomplish here is sometimes, I guess you can read about sex, but there's nothing quite like having sex to really understand the experience. All the reading in the world is not going to help you. So we hope that this experience will highlight a few things that the documentation might not highlight, and you can waste a lot of time trying to figure it out. So the first step is to create the function. Obviously, you're going to get into Lambda, and you're going to write your function and test it. Clearly, the database either exists or you will have created that. We have a database in DynamoDB, which is a NoSQL database. If you're not familiar with NoSQL or databases that are not necessarily relational, you should get smart on DynamoDB. It's a great solution. Lambda itself is a great solution because I don't have to worry about servers. I just write my code, upload it as a function into Lambda, and I'm done. But the first step is to go ahead and create your function, get it tested, and then define a trigger policy to allow Connect to talk to Lambda. Now, the documentation clearly says that, but it doesn't really show you how to do that. And what we're going to do here, hopefully, is make that experience a little bit more obvious. You want to note the ARN, Amazon resource number name for the Lambda function. You're going to need that as you update your contact flow information. You need to expect JSON to objects to be passed back and forth between your function and Connect, and you're going to need to know how to parse that function, and ultimately how to consume the response in your contact flow. So typically, when you write a Lambda function to talk to a database, you do so through an API gateway. When using Connect, you're not going to need the API gateway. It's a direct call on the function, and hopefully we'll make that more obvious with a hands-on login and show you the actual connectivity. So the trigger policy, when you log into Lambda, you're going to see this kind of a setup. And over here are your triggers on the left side, which you will drag over. Unfortunately, as you go through this triggers, you're not going to see one for Connect. So how do you set up the permission? The documentation shows you exactly how the permission needs to be authored. So copy this exactly as you see it on the screen, replacing what's in red with your own information. So your Lambda function name, your account number, and the instance ID. And again, you'll see this when we go ahead and log in. As it relates to one obstacle or one trick of the trade, if you will, this was a big issue, and it actually took me a little time to figure out what was going on. But what you see here on the screen is up in the left-hand side, you'll see some actual code. And in particular, when we call our function, we obviously return something. And what we return from our database is, the status code saying the connection was okay, and then the body of the code. And down here, you'll see the actual body of code, the object that is returned. And what you need to understand when integrating with Lambda and Connect is that Connect cannot deal with a nested object. So in our case, we want to get the ticket status. That's what people are calling it. Get the ticket status read back to them. And as you see here, this is embedded in the body of this response. And so the trick was to flatten the object, as they say. You cannot expect Connect to parse down into the object. It must be at the highest level in the object. So actually what we had to do here was take the ticket status, put it as part of the response, and just point to the entire object and set it to the value ticket status. So this in itself is probably worth this video, because this will waste a lot of your time if you don't get your objects flattened. So having said that, at this point, we're going to log into AWS Console and take a look at some of the background components, and then I'll walk you right through the actual setup of the various elements of the flow to integrate the Connect with Lambda to get this information out of the database. And we'll place a test phone call, look it up in CloudWatch so you can see the pieces that are returned, and ultimately you should be a lot smarter on the subject at the end of this video. So as I pointed out before, we're not going to teach you how to write code here, but you will have set up your database and you will have set up your function. So I'm in the AWS Lambda section of my dashboard. And in here, we've got this example set up. And what I want you to notice here is up in the top is your Amazon resource number. You're going to want to get that information. You're going to want to save it. And next, you're going to add a permission. Now, typically, you go over here on this side of the equation, and if you go to add a trigger, what you'll notice is that there is nothing here for connect, right? You can add Kinesis and DynamoDB, blah, 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 blah. In this particular function, we have an API gateway to support a web service type call. We also have given CloudWatch permission and Amazon DynamoDB permission to use this function. But how do you give connect permission? So as I told you before, if you go out there and Google Amazon Connect Lambda Integration, you'll find this documentation. It's excellent documentation and everything, and it's correct. AWS does a great job with this stuff, but sometimes, like I said before, you learn by doing. So the permission is actually, there's a sample of it right here. You can actually go ahead and copy this, hit this little copy button here, paste it into your favorite editor, and then you're going to want to go ahead and change the areas that are currently in red. I've also found that these backslashes, get rid of them, they're not needed. In fact, if you try to run that, you'll get an error. Now, this is done through the CLI. So typically, you're going to have previously downloaded and installed your AWS CLI command. And this is how you will upload this permission to your function. So download your CLI tools and go ahead and copy this permission, make the changes, and then the CLI will upload it. And how you test that it's been successfully updated, if you go to the Lambda function, you click on this little key here, it'll show you view permissions. And if you scroll down here, come on, you'll see that you've got a function policy. And in here, you will see action, resource, etc. For the permission that you just generated. So this has to be accomplished before you can begin your contact flow modifications. And if you don't do this, you don't get this, it's going to be stupid hard for you because you need to get the permissions right to access your function. So let's go with the assumption that the function has been properly written. In our case, we're have a DynamoDB table that we have set up that contains the information that we're looking to access through the Lambda function. And we have successfully given the permissions through the CLI to enable connect to access that function. Get that out of the way before you go a step further. Let's take a look at the actual call flow now. And at this point, if you've been following the previous lessons, you know that we have a main greeting that says press 1 for sales, 2 for support, and 3 to check the status of a given service ticket. So if I look down here to my main greeting, so you can see that one of the first things we do after we checked for open and closed hours is to get the customer input. And the options we've given them is 1, 2, and 3. If they press 3, we transfer to a flow called get support ticket status. So I want to show you that because that's where all the Lambda integration takes place. So let's go down here to command contact flows and let us go down here to get support ticket status. And let's walk through this. So first thing we do, you're going to be tempted to want to use the get customer input call flows step, contact flows step, but that only allows either a Lex interface or a single digit interface. So that's not going to work here. So what we want to do is use the store customer input, which you'll find over here under interact. And this is where we'll put our prompt. Please enter your previously created service ticket number. We're going to interpret that as text to speech. And the caller will then go ahead and enter some digits. And if that's successful, the next thing we want to do is set the contact attributes. So in our DynamoDB, we have an index to that table, primary index called contact center number. And what I'm doing here is setting the digits that the caller enters to be this variable. This is the destination key in the DynamoDB key value pairs. Then we have to set the type. And if you look here, you'll see that there are various different types here. You might be tempted to use external, but external is not going to cut it. The reason is, if you look at the attribute types here, you'll notice the list of attributes associated with services. I think the best way to think of the services, these are variable parameters that are established by the contact system, as opposed to variables that you would establish. So what we're looking to get here is the information that the customer stored with the store customer input prompt that we just displayed. So we're going to take that stored information, and at that point, we will then, after we set the contract, let's go on down here. And what we're going to do here is give the customer an opportunity to look at the information, verify the information that they've entered. So this time we're going to use the get customer input prompt because we just want them to press 1 to confirm or 2 to re-enter. So this here is not, it's text to speech, it's entered as text, but you'll notice down here that we can interpret this either as text or as synthetic speech markup language, as SML. We've got another video clip on that, but we're going to use it here again. So what we're saying here is we want you to speak, here's our speak tags, the number you entered was, and then you'll see here that the attribute is written as follows, $ dot attributes dot, this is the variable name we set in the previous step. And you'll also notice, consistent with SSML, you can Google that and look that up and learn something about that very standard markup language. We want to say as characters because this is going to be a long number. It's like 10 digits. And if you don't say it as characters, it's going to say the number you entered was 16,563,223. And that's not very helpful. We want them to say the numbers that were entered one at a time. So say as interpreted as characters, and then go ahead and read back the variable we entered. and then we want to press 1 to confirm or press 2. It's just an opportunity to let the caller re-enter the digits. Given that they have now gone ahead and verified and entered their digits, we can now invoke the Lambda function. So at this point, the first thing you'll notice is this is where you have to input the ARN that I showed you in the Lambda function. You're going to want to copy that information. It's going to be required here. So this points us to the ARN of the function. And then we're saying we want to use the attribute that we previously established as a destination key. And that attribute has been set. So at that point, we're going to go and get that information. If it's successful, we're going to set the contact attribute yet again. Now, this is important. Please take note. The destination key that we're looking for, if I go here to my little piece of code, my little code snippet here. Let's try it this way. You'll see here that the Lambda function is going to return an object obtained from the DynamoDB database. And it's really in a form that looks like this. And as I previously explained, the entire object is contained in the body, but this is the response. And as you can see, the body is indented, and therefore it is not flat. We need to get this value here, the ticket status up here, and that's why I showed you how we were able to achieve that by moving it up and flattening the actual object that's returned. What you need to make note of here is that we're calling this attribute consistent with the convention adopted by Amazon. It's an external value, even though we obtained it originally from the system as a destination key, but the return value is in fact external. That's an important distinction. Please make note of it. So $.external.ticket status is the field in the database that we want. I need you to also make note that if you leave this as the variable name, the next time this function is run, it will overwrite this value. So if you want this value to be used later on in your contact flow, you're going to have to assign another attribute name to it so that it survives. Otherwise, it's going to be overwritten the next time you run the value. So at that point, we've invoked the value, we've set the attributes, and we're going to play a prompt that the status of your ticket is currently, and I'm here using the value $external.ticket status, which was set in the previous call flow steps. There's some additional stuff here because at the end of this, we want to return them to the main greeting or handle any errors that we may have encountered. So that's basically how to go forward with invoking the Lambda function. Let's go ahead and set up a test call.
You have reached us during our normal business hours. Thanks for calling. Press 1 for sales, 2 for customer service, and 3 to check the status of a previously created ticket. Optionally, you can stay on the line and you will be connected to the next available. Please enter your previously created service ticket number. The number you entered was 1-858-945-0069. Press 1 to confirm. Press 2. Okay, stand by while we check our records for the status of your ticket. The status of your ticket is currently TAC in progress. Now returning you to the main menu. Thanks for calling. Press 1 for sales.
Okay, we've logged into our dashboard at AWS. We've gone to CloudWatch. Scroll down here to logs. We've got many, many logs. I found the one related to this particular Lambda activity and popped it open. And this is our call here. So you can see the call came in. Now, keep in mind, this is not the request ID for the call per se. It was the request ID to Lambda by Connect. And you can step through this. You can see the contact data, the attributes of that contact. So you'll see things that it was an inbound, the ARN of the Connect instance, and so forth. And down here, you can also see that the key that we entered was in fact captured. It's a good place to go if you're looking to find out where things went wrong. Let's go down here, and you will be able to see the ticket status result, TAC in progress, which you heard. And actually, you can also see the exact object that was returned here. And you can see that we did, in fact, flatten this object to get the results we wanted. So you're going to find CloudWatch to be an invaluable tool while you're troubleshooting your integrations. DrVoIP.com is an Amazon consulting partner specializing in call center design, deployment, and ongoing support. We develop custom agent and supervisor dashboards, specialize in CRM integrations and custom software development. Our projects are on time, on budget, and we have the highest customer satisfaction scores. So please check the DrVoIP.com site for additional information. We hope you have found this informative, and we thank you for viewing.